A Contact 5 investigation uncovers high-quality teachers losing their ability to teach in Florida.
Katie LeGrone has spent months digging into Florida's critical teacher shortage, only to discover why a series of recent changes by the state to recruit the best teachers is actually backfiring.
In 2015, the state revised its teacher licensing exam, but we discovered in the state's quest for the highest quality teachers, some students are learning from the lowest quality teachers.
If you're wondering,
I teach AP Psychology.
About the creds.
Some of the highest scores in my school for that.
Of a great teacher.
And earned that 4.0.
Meet.
I have these amazing relationships with colleagues and students.
Julie McHugh.
I've been doing this for 21 years.
So we didn't expect to hear the South Florida classroom veteran say,
I'm contemplating absolutely 100% leaving the classroom.
And we certainly didn't expect to hear why.
I can't pass a test.
This test is designed to make you want to quit.
Teaching student Amal Muhammad fears she won't see day one in a classroom.
It crushes you.
They are among a growing number of teacher hopefuls who last year failed.
I am so upset.
Florida's teacher licensing exam. The state made tougher a few years ago.
How am I not qualified to be in the classroom? I don't understand.
It's a must pass.
It's so disheartening.
To teach, or like Julie, earn more teaching in Florida.
Sat for it a fourth time, and I got the same results. Missed it by 1 point. Something is very wrong.
Turns out failure rates from Florida's teacher certification and leadership exams are at an all-time high, up more than 30% on parts of the exam.
We're concerned. I'm concerned.
Dr. David Alsop is Associate Dean at the University of South Florida's College of Education.
Do you think that this test is a good measurement of high-quality teachers in Florida? So what is it measuring?
Well, that's a good question.
But bad for him. Last year, nearly 10% of students here graduated with a diploma, but not a passing score on the state's test.
So they spent 4+ years of their lives preparing to be a teacher, and now they can't teach.
Add that to Florida's ongoing teacher shortage.
Are you saying that the state's answer to recruiting higher quality teachers might actually be backfiring on them?
Yes, to some degree at this point.
That's because the use of long-term subs, or those spending more than a week in a classroom, is up in some districts. In fact, we found one district this year using long-term subs in more than 50 of its classrooms. 5 of those classes for the entire school year.
So you're ending up with people who are less well qualified.
Bob Schaefer works with fairtest.org, a national nonprofit publicly critical of standardized tests for students and teachers.
There is no evidence whatsoever that doing well on these initial teacher entry exams means that you'll be a better classroom educator.
No one from the State Department of Education would speak to us on camera. In an email, a spokesperson described the plunge in passing rates as anticipated and increases over time. Multiple tests later, Amal Muhammad finally passed the state's exam.
I will not sit and take this test again.
After 18 months of studying,
Over $1,000 in fees.
Julie McHugh has had enough.
I feel like they're trying to make money off of us.
She's looking at walking away.
For 18 months, I've been distracted by an institution telling me that I'm not good. And I don't deserve my teaching credentials that I've earned.
It's a complicated situation with really no easy fix. No one's asking for easier tests, but critics are asking the state for more help. From better prep material to reducing costs just to take these tests. But the biggest issue, the debate over whether standardized teacher tests are really the best way to measure teacher success. Katie LeGrone, WPTV News, Channel 5.
Tonight, overwhelming reaction to a Contact 5 investigation that exposed teachers failing the state's teacher test at unprecedented rates.
We've learned the state's now being taken to court over the problem as more teachers come forward to share their own stories of frustration and failure. Katie LeGrone explains.
This teacher now in a legal battle with the state over a teacher test she says isn't fair. She's not the only one.
At a recent teacher conference in Tampa.
Challenging. We have a real crisis.
So everybody's talking about it.
Right.
Everybody was talking about this.
I'm appalled by this. I'm appalled by this test.
Known as the Florida Teacher Certification Exam, it's a must-pass if you want to teach in Florida. But after our investigation discovered how recent changes to these tests resulted in unprecedented failures, the newest stats show there hasn't been much improvement. In fact, there's a bigger problem. The number of people taking this test is down by 10% on some tests.
This is turning people, good, talented people away.
Leaving more school districts like Manatee County, where 30 classes are now being taught by long-term substitutes, many because the teacher couldn't pass the state's test.
Not necessarily because they're not a good teacher.
Right.
How frustrating is that? Just ask a room full of Florida teachers.
You just feel so defeated.
It's ruining my life.
Living it.
It makes you feel like, who are you to want to teach these kids? How are you going to help them if you can't pass the test yourself?
There's something wrong with that exam. There's a flaw with that exam.
It's affected my life tremendously.
Clarissa Curry earned her bachelor's in education, but after 7 failed attempts, she's teaching with a temporary certificate that's about to expire.
I don't know. What am I looking like? What it's looking like next year?
Melissa Smith also earned her bachelor's and also took the test 7 times and failed.
That's ridiculous.
So she's leaving to get her master's.
This god-awful experience of failing these exams, I kind of gotten to that point I may not even come back to Florida.
It's a problem really costing these teachers.
$2,500.
$4,000?
Over $2,000.
I would say over $5,000.
Over $5,000?
That's right, the test administered by Pearson VUE costs more to retake.
They're just trying to make money off of teachers.
It's unprecedented.
We caught up with Pearson at that education conference in Tampa.
You want me to pass along their information?
But they sent us back to the state, who these teachers have a final message for.
You need to reconsider the way in which you are testing first-year teachers.
The state of Florida are losing a lot of passionate and qualified teachers.
It's a racket.
It makes us feel like we don't matter. See us in action.
Teachers who are putting in sweat and tears.
This test defeats us. Us teachers
will slip through your hands.
I matter.
I matter.
We matter.
But most importantly, these kids matter.
Colleges also dealing with fallout from this test. Fewer education majors, loss of funding in some cases, all during a statewide teacher shortage. The state maintains more rigorous teacher tests are in line with student tests. Katie LeGrone, WPTV News Channel 5.
Tonight, Florida's Department of Education responds with action to a Contact 5 investigation. Over the past month, Katie LeGrone has been exposing how a recently revised state teacher test is forcing highly affected teachers out of area classrooms. Now, for the first time, the state is acknowledging the problem. Contact 5 investigator Katie LeGrone explains how the state is stepping in.
That's right. It's a significant response to historic failure rates on a test every teacher in Florida must pass to teach in a classroom like this one. The state now wants to give teachers money. The problem? Some teachers aren't buying it.
You just feel so defeated.
They are frustrated Florida teachers.
It's very frustrating.
Fed up with a state test.
There's something wrong with that exam.
They can't pass.
How many have failed it at least twice?
Again.
5 times?
And again.
7 times?
And again. After the state dismissed our questions about historically high failure rates on this teacher test as typical and increases over time, the Florida Department of Education is now acknowledging a problem, proposing $15 million in next year's budget to help teachers pay for initial certification and renewal fees. According to the state, the money will save each teacher as much as $555 to become certified.
They're just trying to make money off of teachers.
But between testing fees and study material, $500 isn't making much of a dent for these teachers who have already spent that and then some.
$2,500. $4,000. $2,000.
Including Caitlin Frank.
Over $5,000?
Who, after 5 tries, has yet to pass and get her certification.
We are defeated by this test. That this test makes us feel inadequate, not able, just nothing.
High-quality teachers losing their ability to teach.
Back in February, we were first to reveal how recent state changes to this test has resulted in unprecedented failure rates, forcing even highly qualified teachers like Clarissa Curry out of the classroom.
The Department of Education told me that I have until May, which is the last month of school this year, and I don't know what it's looking like next year.
The test administered by Pearson VUE costs teachers up to $215 to take, and the price goes up if you have to retake it.
Some questions don't go towards your score.
So ask these teachers if the state's solution helps.
No.
Not for this class, who believes the problem with this test goes much deeper than money.
You already know everybody has different learning styles. Everybody learns different, but you're testing everybody the same way.
The problem is the test, nothing else.
Also part of that budget, more than $40 million to help recruit teachers and keep them. If approved, this money wouldn't start helping until next school year. Katie LeGrone, WPTV News, Channel 5.
It's the investigation that has teachers from around the state still calling and emailing us months after we first exposed the problem. Florida teachers failing a state test at historic rates.
Tonight, Contact 5 investigator Katie LeGrone has new numbers raising even more questions about whether this exam is really recruiting the best teachers or a way to make money off of them.
You're looking at hidden camera video inside a Pearson test center in Florida. It's here where job seekers are tested on knowledge, from cosmetology to psychology, real estate to law enforcement. It's Pearson that also tests aspiring Florida teachers.
I have never felt so defeated and so useless.
Who must take and pass a series of teacher tests if they want to teach in Florida or move up. But since these tests were revised a few years ago, failure rates are higher than ever.
It makes you feel stupid.
Even veteran teachers,
13 years as a teacher.
21 years in,
are paying to flunk again.
I'm ashamed.
And again.
Why aren't you passing the test?
And again.
I sat for it a fourth time.
While questions continue to mount over the exam's validity and fairness, we've uncovered more about its rising costs. Less than a decade ago, the test cost examinees $25 per section. Retakes, not a penny more. Today, portions of Florida's teacher test cost up to $200 to take, and retakes are an additional $20. That's nearly an 800% increase in less than 10 years. In fact, we discovered Florida's teacher certification exam is one of the priciest teacher tests in the country.
They're just trying to make money off of teachers.
Not if you ask the state. The test, once funded by the legislature, is now 100% paid for by test takers.
That is a real problem for the state of Florida.
It's the kind of math education colleges fear is driving new students away.
The best and brightest of our students choose not to go into teaching precisely because of this test.
Back at this Pearson Test Center in Orlando.
This is one of just 4 locations around the state where frustrated teachers can challenge their test scores. But like every part of this exam, it doesn't come cheap. Questioning a score costs another $75. And state numbers show it rarely makes a difference.
Take a look. In the last year, there were more than 870 examinees who paid for one of these score verification sessions.
This test is constantly on our mind.
After her 5th retake and 5th failure, Caitlin Frank was one of them.
I challenged every question I got wrong because, hey, maybe something will work. And then I got a letter in the mail saying, thank you for challenging. However, we find that our answers are correct and basically thank you for your money.
After 4 failed essays, Julie McHugh paid to protest her scores too.
My score stands.
Turns out nearly everyone last year got the same response. Of the 871 failing teachers who paid to question their scores, just 15 got them changed from fail to pass. 15 out of 871. Less than 2%.
Like these unprecedented failure rates.
Pearson wouldn't talk, referring us to Florida's Department of Education, who for months has also refused to talk on camera.
What's going on? Is it me?
About teachers.
I can't pass it.
Still failing.
I was taking it every 30 days.
Still frustrated.
Failing by 1 point.
And paying all sorts of.
Do not want us.
The ultimate price.
I'm going to waste my money and my emotions and my time and defeat myself until I pass this test.
And after months of requesting an on-camera interview, I caught up with Florida's education commissioner earlier today. Take a look. It's gone up 800%.
I appreciate it.
How do you justify letting highly effective teachers go?
That's enough. We have answered your questions.
And before Commissioner Stewart walked away, she told me the department stands by these tests and told me the higher failure rates are a reflection of the state setting higher standards for teachers. Katie Legrone, WPTV News Channel 5.
Months after Contact 5 uncovered historic failure rates on a Florida teacher test, the State Department of Education is finally talking about it, but only after Contact 5's Katie Legrone went to them.
In terms of this teacher test, it's gone up 800%.
I appreciate it.
Florida's education commissioner cut us off, but not before we managed to get some answers on a test thousands of teachers and teacher hopefuls have been failing at unprecedented rates. What's your response to that?
I think we could provide you with a great deal of information about those assessments. The board votes on those assessments, and they are aligned to the standards that are being taught in the classroom, which is appropriate.
For months, we've tracked failures on Florida's teacher certification exam, a must-pass to teach here. But after the state revised the test in 2015, failure rates have shot up 30% on some portions of the exam. And some test takers are not only failing once,
You just feel so defeated.
but 3, 4, 10, even 12 times.
Makes you feel stupid.
It's enough to make some question if the exam administered by controversial test giant Pearson is flawed.
I don't think that that's what it's a reflection of. I think it's a reflection of we've raised standards for students, and consequently we need to raise standards for teachers and make sure that they are experts in the content area that they are teaching.
The exam costs up to $200 per section to take, more for retakes. That's nearly an 800% increase in less than a decade. The state says the test, once funded by the legislature, is now 100% paid for by examinees.
What's going on? Is it me?
Many of whom are still failing.
I can't pass it.
Still frustrated.
This god-awful experience of failing these exams, I kind of gotten to that point I may not even come back to Florida.
And as we too experienced, still asking why.
I mean, don't you feel like they deserve more of an answer? How do you justify letting highly effective teachers go?
That's enough. We have answered your questions.
Pearson has refused to answer our questions. 2 examinees are now taking the state to court, challenging how these tests are scored. Katie Legrone, WPTV News Channel 5.
Tonight, a South Florida teacher takes her frustration over a state-mandated teacher test to court. It's an investigation Contact 5 investigator Katie Legrone broke in February. This after learning these tests have already resulted in unprecedented failure rates. She joins us live from Orlando, where the teacher spent the day defending her work on a test the state says she failed.
That's right, Michael. This administrative hearing began here at 9:30 this morning. It wrapped up just about a half hour ago. A South Florida veteran teacher taking on the Florida Department of Education and testing giant Pearson. At issue, teacher tests and a grading process. Both the state and Pearson stand by, but this teacher believes is flawed.
South Florida teacher Julie McHugh
I feel good.
is feeling relieved.
Fighting for my worth as a teacher leader.
Today marked years in the making for the veteran teacher now fighting grades she received on a state teacher test. She failed 4 times.
The system is flawed, and I'm trying to prove that.
McHugh, who has 20-plus years of classroom experience and is a 2-time nominee for Teacher of the Year, needs to pass the essay portion of a leadership exam before the state will pay her more for the 4.0 master's degree she recently earned.
Nothing endorsed by Pearson, nothing endorsed by the FDOE.
The test, administered and scored by testing giant Pearson VUE, is among a series of recently revised teacher tests, now resulting in more failures than ever. While the state acknowledges making these tests more difficult to align with more rigorous student tests, it maintains Pearson's scoring process is detailed and thorough. The state's attorney at one point saying the idea of human error is beyond belief. No comment from the state, but this teacher is.
There are flaws within the actual rating system.
And won't stop until she gets the grade she believes she's earned.
I do believe 100% in teacher accountability, and I will sit for a test, but the testing system needs to be fair.
And providing testimony today, of course, Julie McHugh, also a chief reviewer from Pearson, another Pearson rep. and a member of the Department of Education who revealed that Julie's essay, when all is said and done, her last essay, has been graded and reviewed by a total of 8 different people, all of whom agree it just didn't cut it. A final ruling isn't expected for at least the next 30 days. Live in Orlando, Katie LeGrone, WPTV News, Channel 5.
For the second time in as many days, a Florida teacher is fighting the State Department of Education over a teacher test thousands are failing. Contact 5 investigator Katie LeGrone is back in Orlando tonight with all new developments from her ongoing exclusive investigation. Katie?
Yeah, Kelly, a second teacher offering up testimony here in Orlando today on why he too believes how these teacher tests are being scored is full of problems.
Daryl Bryant never thought teaching would land him in front of a judge.
I wrote an essay that should be scored higher than the score I received.
The Central Florida teacher who's been teaching PE at a charter school for 3 years is fighting the state after failing the essay portion of the state's teacher certification exam 3 times.
I would like to be shown why what I wrote, my essay, how that fails to pass based on what is stipulated in the grading process.
Today, he defended his writing, describing the use of tutors and his history as a writer and editor for the Boys and Girls Club.
Mr. Canto, how are you?
But the state and testing contractor Pearson had their own defense, describing a thorough scoring process that's fair, detailed, consistent. The state's attorney going so far as to say the process makes error almost impossible.
And do you have any doubt that...
Betsy Griffey is a Pearson chief reviewer who reviewed Daryl's essay.
I am convinced that the process is substantial and credible.
The exam is part of a battery of must-pass tests for teachers in Florida. Since the exam was made tougher in 2015, failures on portions of the test have reached an all-time high, up nearly 30% in 2 years.
Do you have any response to these frustrated and failing teachers?
Absolutely no response today.
The state said nothing. Daryl hopes what he divulged to a judge says everything to give him a chance in a public Florida classroom.
Something is missing if a Daryl Bryant is not in the public school system.
And Daryl Bryant's case, one of 2 ongoing legal battles for the state, both of them involving teachers who keep taking these tests and failing them. Now, the DOE pointing out today that the total passage rate for first-time examinees, specifically on this essay portion last year, was 69%. A final ruling isn't expected for at least another month. Live in Orlando, Katie LeGrone, WPTV News, Channel 5.
Hundreds of teachers from across the state will not be back in the classroom come August because they can't pass a state test.
It is the latest development from a 5-month investigation that resulted in 2 court cases and hundreds of messages to our inbox.
Contact 5 investigator Katie LeGrone has details from a Florida classroom.
This summer, school districts across the state are working to fill classrooms like this one with teachers. But we've learned the state's teacher test isn't helping to recruit new teachers. In fact, it's leaving many districts with more slots to fill.
"45 questions is not a measure of me being a competent educator.
It angers me that a test decides my worth.
A lot of people has told me, well, you know, window's closed and another one will open. In this situation, I'm not willing to let that window close.
They are Florida teachers who just lost the title.
How does it feel that you were sort of pushed out of this industry because of a test?
It's terrible.
Debbie Booker, a former social worker turned teacher, was just fired after 3 years teaching K-6 special ed at a Title I school.
I was allowed to show the best part of me.
I've spent my life working with students and trying to make a difference.
So was Kathleen Moss, who has a master's degree and 30-plus years working with kids.
I always knew that teaching was something that I was called to do, that I'm supposed to do. This is my thing.
Known as the FTCE, it's a battery of must-pass teacher tests to get a license to teach here. But after a series of revisions made the test harder in 2015, failures are up. Math went from an 80% passing rate in 2014 to a 57% passing rate last year. Numbers that didn't add up for Debbie, Kathleen, and Claudia Borges in Hillsborough County.
And now I don't have a job.
One of nearly 24 teachers the school district was just forced to fire because of the FTCE.
It's always something that's difficult to deal with, that we have to terminate a teacher over testing rules, but we do have to follow state law.
Around the state, teacher-seeking districts are feeling the hit. St. Lucie County just terminated 10 teachers over the test. Palm Beach, 80. And Polk County recently issued pink slips to 79 teachers.
We never want to see a teacher go, especially if they're effective or a highly effective teacher.
They're leaving us without a job.
A test designed to attract the highest quality, now forcing many
I'll be looking for another job.
to start all over.
I don't think I failed, but in their eyes I did. And there's something wrong with that picture. There really, truly is.
Teachers have the rest of the summer to take and pass this test. Katie LeGrone, WPTV News, Channel 5.
Now the state stands by these revised teacher tests and the rise in failure rates as well. As Katie reported in the past, or has reported in the past, the state anticipated failures to increase and is consistently monitoring scores. New details on how the state came up with revisions, new passing scores, and score breakdowns. All that can be found on our website right now, WPTV.com.
Repeatedly failed a state teacher test. They fought to prove what they claimed, that it was a flawed test.
And now we've learned whether a state judge agrees. Contact 5 investigative reporter Katie LeGrone has an all-new update on her year-long series, Florida Teachers Failing and Frustrated.
Veteran teacher Julie McHugh and Florida teacher hopeful Daryl Bryant react to the latest results from a teacher test saga they've lived for the last 2 years.
Some surprise. Some of the things that came out in the proposed order were interesting.
I can't say totally shocked or surprised.
A state administrative judge recently rejecting claims their failing scores on the essay portion of the state's teacher licensing and leadership exams are wrong and a reflection of flaws in the system, not their own weaknesses. The two taking their fight to the top after Daryl failed his essay 3 times, Julie 4. But the judge in both cases describing their critiques as wholly unpersuasive and cited them both for failing to prove there's anything unfair or discriminatory about the process.
I'm extremely dissatisfied.
There are some things that are blatantly clear and unfair.
The exams administered and scored by testing giant Pearson VUE are a must-pass for every teacher who wants to teach or earn more teaching in Florida. In 2015, the state purposely made the tests more rigorous to better align with more rigorous student tests. But our investigation revealed these revisions have resulted in unprecedented failure rates, with overall passing rates still down 30% on some portions. The state maintains the drop is typical with revisions, and Pearson's scoring process is detailed, thorough, leaving mistakes virtually impossible.
This is killing me.
In the end, the judge agreed, leaving a 20-year classroom veteran and a physical education coordinator now studying their next moves.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Well, my next step is to appeal. Absolutely 150%. I will continue to fight.
Tonight, Florida's Department of Education not commenting on this ruling. It is a recommended order and will now go to a state education commission for final approval. Katie LeGrone, WPTV News, Channel 5.